Well, one thing that I often tell parents when they come to see me with those kinds of stories that are infuriating, most of the things are either untrue, distorted, and they're hurtful to the child. So, although the natural tendency is to want to choke the ex-spouse, that certainly doesn't prove anything. Keeps you angry, your child then sees you angry. What I tell people is pretend you're in front of a big auditorium talking to your children in front of everybody you know. And that helps keep people neutral, where you're really just giving your kids information, saying, Daddy or Mommy is upset about this. They think that this is how it happened. We're really not sure how it happened. We both are sad that the marriage ends, but we still want you to be happy, and we want to each learn how to be happy ourselves.
Margie, a lot of people that are out there, we're not certain where they're at right now in their life, whether or not they have made the decision to get a divorce, whether or not they are divorced, whether or not they're 2 years down the road from their divorce trying to deal with all of the anger. So some of the things that we need to understand, and it's very important, this decision to get a divorce is up to each individual person. And since we don't know where they're at, if there is any way that they can save their marriage, we want them to think about that. This is really important. Is there anything that you can say that will help if they've decided to save their marriage?
Okay, I think people need to, whether they're contemplating the decision, whether they've already made the decision, or whether they're trying to save the marriage, it's getting very specific, looking at what's making you unhappy. It may sound like a simple question, and it's not. Some of it may be about what's going on with you yourself as an individual, and a lot of it may have to do with what your spouse is doing or not doing. It's really important that people communicate to each other about what's making them unhappy. It doesn't mean that they're necessarily right. It just means that you're talking about it. So, for instance, if one person says to the other, you never listen to me. Sounds kind of general, probably kind of common, that, you know, the other person needs to say, well, what do you mean? What don't I listen to? Don't you feel that I'm attentive, that I'm interested? People need to really talk about the very specifics of day-to-day life, because very often people let the little things go. Sometimes you try to avoid conflict. Sometimes you really don't even know what's happening, that slowly begins to eat away at you. And all of a sudden, you just feel miserable and angry.
I know someone once said to me before her divorce that for her, every time they didn't talk or they didn't communicate, or he hurt her feelings or she hurt his feelings, whatever it was that was happening, it was like they were dropping pennies on a scale. And pretty soon it got beyond the point where they could, it was fair and that they could stay together. And I think that it's important that people can see that in their mind, that just one little hurtful word is just one more penny on that scale. And it's sad, you know, that people just let it go when they cared enough about each other to be married or have children, you know. It's a sad situation.
Well, one of the things I try to help people with is to learn how to complain in a healthy, productive way that isn't really accusatory, but just saying what you feel and why. Knowing that the other person isn't necessarily doing it to be mean, to nasty, to just out to get you, but may not even know that this is something that's making you unhappy. Because until people really know what it is that's making them unhappy, they really can't voice it to their spouse. And if over time the spouse really just doesn't want to listen to it, really isn't into understanding anything that's being said, well then the option might be divorce. But there's probably many years that people know they're unhappy, where they really don't address the crucial issues. People keep it inside of themselves, and then all of a sudden say, I want a divorce.
Margie, I want to thank you so much for coming today. I knew you'd be wonderful, and you were. If people need additional help, where can they contact you?
If people want to contact me, I'm located in Mount Kisco, New York, which is in Westchester County, a suburb of the New York City area. If you need to find a therapist who's closer to your area, look in your local phone book, and I suggest that you call one or two, chat on the phone for a few minutes, and find someone you're going to feel comfortable with. The other thing that's really important to mention is that many people do very well coping with divorce and moving on with their lives. And from what I've seen in my work, the people who do the best are the ones who are able to let go, forgive yourself, forgive your ex-spouse, put your anger behind you, Expose yourself to whatever you're feeling instead of trying to cover it by anger and blame. And the best way to move on is to know that this is an opportunity in your life to now find a way to make yourself more happy than you've been able to be before.
Before I leave today, I want to go over some of the things that I think are most important for you all to remember out there. First of all, divorce does not have to be ugly. That's past, that's over. If you're there, get rid of it, get on with your life. That's really important. Also, a couple of times we've been pretty hard on lawyers throughout this video. I think that lawyers, if you're listening to this, you need to understand that in a divorce situation, you need to get it over with as quickly as possible for the safety, for the health and happiness of those clients who come to you. And I know that sometimes you're not in control of that because people have a habit of dragging it out, and so sometimes you're at their mercy and sometimes we're at your mercy. But it's important that you understand that divorce, and not every lawyer has been divorced, so he doesn't understand what the people that are coming to him are going through, or coming to her are going through. So we just want to say that we know that you're doing your job. Just help us get through this as quickly as possible, because it is some of the worst times of our life, and you need to understand that. Some of the other really important things for everyone to remember is, first of all, don't fight. That's a hard thing to say, and I know it is, but it costs you money, and it's heartache, and it's trouble, and so don't fight. If you were good enough friends with that person to marry that person in the first place, figure out a way that you can at least be neutral so that you are not fighting. You're hurting yourself, you're hurting your children. Don't blame the kids, and don't let them blame themselves. So many children, because we're not talking to them, so many children think that it's their fault because they were bad, because they didn't do their homework, because they wet the bed, that that parent that they love and depend on has left them. It is important that you tell them, even if you're not still in the house, that you love them very much and you continue to be a part of their life. It's the most important thing that you can do. Don't use the children. A lot of times this is the only revenge left for parents, and they use the children back and forth between themselves, and they bat them back and forth like a ping pong ball. You've got to stop doing that. It is not good for your children's health, so don't use the children. Don't divorce your children. You are divorcing your spouse. You are not divorcing that child. That child will count on you for the rest of his or her life. And my mother owned a nursing home, and I can't tell you how many elderly people sat there and cried because their children didn't come and see them. Well, I can tell you right now that their children didn't come and see them because when they were little, they let their when they were little, they let their children down. So it's important, you plan for your future, and the future is what you make of it. If you are mean to your children right now, you may never see your grandchildren. These children will grow up and they're not going to need you anymore. And you think it's not important now, but it's going to be very important later on. Again, talking to your children is the single most important thing that I can tell you. Talk to them. Let them know what it is that's going on in your life and going on in their life. It's their life too. Also, get your finances in order. A lot of people don't think about this. They are mad, they are angry, they stomp out of the house, they take whatever they are. Fellas will usually take their tools in their truck and they'll be gone. You need to get your finances in order. If you see your divorce coming, there are places where you can really get hurt financially. If you have a credit card with that spouse, he or she will run it up to the limit. And on top of that, they'll run it up to the limit, spending it on somebody else, and then you're going to really be mad. So get your credit cards paid off and close them out, cut them up, get done with them. Your car, there is nothing worse than your name being on financial papers and somebody else driving around your car. So make sure that you get your car straight. If your name is on that title, get it off that title and make sure that, and remember, although you can divorce your spouse, you can't divorce the bank. They're going to come looking for you if something happens. So remember that. Your mortgage, if you know that you're going to get a divorce, and you and your wife or you and your husband are on friendly terms, right now interest rates are low, go back to that bank and refinance that house, get a lower interest rate, because you have to think about the fact that both of you are now going to have separate households and you don't have any more money coming in. So the wife is going to really be struggling, the husband's going to really be struggling. Who's going to pay those house payments? And if you don't pay, the bank's going to come looking for you. So get your financial house in order, because a lot of the stress that you're going to feel throughout this divorce is going to be financially related. You may have to file bankruptcy. If you can get yourself in order before you divorce, you let the bank know that you and your wife or you and your husband are separated. I can guarantee you, unless you have a whole lot of money in the bank, that bank is not going to loan you any more money. So it's important that you get your finances in order. Also, during a divorce situation, because there is so much anger and so much stress, you need to pay special attention to your health. There's going to be a lot of lonely nights. People who drink are going to drink abusively. You're going to smoke. You're going to have a lot of health issues that are stress related. And at this time, you may be tempted to quit your job. I mean, some people just do the strangest things when they're getting a divorce, and really what you need more than anything is you need some stability. So get yourself in a safe position, even if it's a little tiny efficiency apartment. Rather than being homeless, get yourself somewhere where you can begin to think about your future life, because if you dwell on your past life and you drink heavily, your health is going to go down. These are bad times for you. So this is important that you remember these things and you concentrate on you. The last story that I want to tell you about today is probably the saddest one that I've ever heard in all of the time that I have talked with people about divorces and what happened. This is a true story. It is a domestic violence call that the police went on. And when the police got there, there was a car that was sitting in the driveway, and it was packed full of the woman's possessions. She was leaving the home. And the husband and wife were in the front yard, and they were fighting over one of 3 VCRs. And they were pretty brutal, and they were fighting, and the wife wanted one of the VCRs, and she said, "He has 2 more, I want this one." So the police talked to the husband, and finally they agreed that yes, that she could have the VCR. And so she put it in the car. And the police thought that they were all done. And they turned to leave, and when they turned to leave, they saw standing on the porch 2 little children. And they'll probably start crying. The children were 2 little girls about 4 and 7 years old, and beside each one of them was a suitcase. And so the husband in this situation said to the wife, "Which one of them do you want?" And she walked up and she took the oldest one by the hand, and she never said a word to the little one. And she walked away with her. I think that we need to realize how devastating divorce can be. We need to stop fighting. We need to take care of our children. And we need all the help we can get. Because one of our greatest concerns today is the welfare of the children, I have spoken with several domestic judges and have found that 95% of the children that are going through his court systems for vandalism and problems that they're having are children of single parents. So I think that it's very important when we get this divorce that we also understand that we need sort of a safety net for our children. One of the best that I've seen so far, and I want to tell you about it, is the Boys and Girls Clubs of America. They are located throughout the country. If you don't have one in your area, I believe their headquarters are in Chicago, or you can check. All of the major cities are going to have one. Boys and Girls Clubs of America give the children a safe place to be every day after school. For my own self, when I got a divorce, I was paying half of my weekly salary out for babysitters so that my children had someplace safe to be. A Boys and Girls Club costs $10 a year. Parents, pay attention to this. Every day after school, they'll have somewhere safe to be. Throughout the summer, they'll have somewhere safe to be. On the weekends, they'll have somewhere safe. So if there's not a Boys and Girls Club in your area, maybe a group of you can get together, talk with your city officials, talk with your local churches, but someone in your community, start one or start something similar to it, because you're going to need it. You're going to need all the help you can get throughout this divorce. And let's get these kids grown up without so much violence and the things that they're watching on TV. Give them some direction for their lives to go in while you're getting your life straight. That's important. Also, in concluding, I would like to thank all of the people who helped make this video possible. My very favorite is Arlen Roth, because he is the stranger that I met on the train, and he really gave me the courage to come here and talk to you today. I also want to thank all of the staff at GTE Visnet, because they have been wonderful and they have been patient with me, and they're really good people. And I think most of all, I want to thank God. I really do, because when things got so bad for me that I had to get on my knees and ask for help, He helped me, and He'll help you. So thank you so much for your time.